diagnosed when my daughter was 2 months old. I was kind of just living, not knowing I had this cancer, blood cancer. It was lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, diffuse large B cell, if anyone's familiar with any blood cancers. And I went through 5 months of chemo, and now I'm going on 8.5 years in remission. So that's my story in a nutshell. And I'm sure I'll be sharing more as the night goes on. But Aliesha, if you'd like to tell just a little bit about your experiences.
I'm an AYA cancer patient. I've been through cancer 3 times. My first cancer is adenoid cystic carcinoma, otherwise known as ACC, and it has no cure currently. And then I went through breast cancer and went through a metastasis, years after that. So I've been through it quite a bit, and it's a little different living with something that, they don't know if they can cure. So, yeah, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah. Right. And so this week, basically, and even since last week, I was posting about the topic of words matter, and that's the topic of this live. What you say to someone, and this goes true for anyone in life, but you should choose your words wisely, and especially when it comes to cancer patients, cancer survivors, because sometimes people can say things and not realize that they're offending you, hurting you in some way. So I had some posts up, and we had lots of people commenting. So I want to kind of just talk about this topic and see where it goes, and who would like to share. You want to share one of your experiences with this?
Sure. I know. I think my first experience was in the grocery store, and when I first went through my cancer, my head, no hair, scars on my head and neck, very visible, can't hide it. And I wasn't really embarrassed about it. I mean, I had a surgery. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm alive. Thank you. And grown-ups were like staring and, with this very shocked look. And then this little girl walked up to me, and she just so innocently just asked me a question, and said, "Did you get in that accident?" And I looked down at her and I said, "Oh no, honey, I had surgery." And she was, "Oh, okay." And in that moment, I remember thinking, why can't grown-ups be like this?
Right. It's just so genuine, right? That a child wouldn't be overthinking or saying something that they think they should say, so that's a nice story, and it'll tie into what we might get to later about what you could do when you don't know what to say. But I think I'll share one of the things that someone had said to me that hurt to say it like that. So I think I got a lot of oh, you're better now, or I thought you were better now, shortly after finishing treatment. And anybody who's gone through it knows that it could be any amount of time before you feel better. And even though you're not actively going through treatment, you might feel really sick still, and you might have just psychologically, right? You might be just having mental health issues. So that really hurt. A lot of judging or comparing. Oh, I knew this person who was better by now. And it's kind of like, well, what do I do with that? Because I don't feel well, and I'm not that person, and my experience was different. And I just don't think it's very helpful. So I think sometimes people will want to compare their experiences or their friend's experience to yours, because it's human nature, right? You telling a story, you want to say, oh, I know about this. But I think that it's very hard to relate cancer stories from patient to patient going through the same type of cancer. I knew people who had a totally different experience. So that's something that I would say.
Yeah, and the whole, it's just hair. That hurt me. I can't say it didn't hurt. And I know this is just hair, right? It's hair. It'll grow back, hopefully, but it was very hard to hear. I remember just thinking, did you think before you said that?
Yeah, and I think that's a like a go-to for people. They think it'll make you feel better to remind you it grows back, but like, all right, but doesn't mean that while I'm losing it and have none and going through all these different styles and hats and this that I'm not upset. I'm actually, I didn't choose this. And even the compliments after, I knew it looked kind of cool. When I look back at the pictures, I'm like, wow, my hair was really short. I think I could pull that off, but I didn't choose it. So every time I say, especially even if it was a stranger, oh, thank you. But inside, I'm like, oh, if only they knew type of thing.
Yeah.
Because at that point, they have no clue. And
Yeah.
that's hard to do.
And like I rocked that Sinead O'Connor look. Like I love it. I was like, hey, yeah, but it was still hard. Like it reminded me of that G.I. Jane movie where, the scene where she's shaving her head and she's crying. It was like inside, that's what we feel like. We're just like,
Right. Right. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I think that I had that like in one of my posts on one of the carousel slides. I talked about the hair. Um, but I think all of these things, people have had comments on the post saying like, it's good to talk about this and just to have a place where we can share the experience of how we feel. Because sometimes you don't want to say to your friend, you just hurt my feelings, because then you feel bad because they didn't necessarily mean it. Like something I mentioned before, yeah, there could be some intentional, it could be a little intentional, but a lot of times people say things
yeah,
and they think they're making you feel better. Could you share, because we met earlier in the week and we're sharing some stories. I think what you said about your son's suggestion is a great one about what people could do instead of maybe comparing to someone else or, just saying these typical things that you hear. It's going to grow back. You're lucky you're alive. All these kinds of things. I love
yeah.
the advice he gave.
I had to ask him, like, since you grew up with me, always being, having cancer, like, what is your perspective on the do's and don'ts? And he said, well, instead of people, because they don't really know what to say, he said, instead of just like saying something that's superficial, so to speak, he said, why don't they just ask a genuine question and then have a response that's genuine, and then you can have a genuine openness about it, and then everyone has this nice common understanding.
Yeah. I think those are the people that I kind of, and even still, like talking to, where I'll share something that happened instead of like, oh, good thing that's over, or something that's kind of dismissive. How did you feel at that point? Or what did that person do next? Like and then then I
Right.
know they're open to hearing more of my story. Um, but maybe some people it's a lot for them, and that's true too. So maybe it hurts some of my friends to think that I went through this, because I don't really have, besides people I've met in the cancer community and in the hospital, my other friends thankfully haven't gone through it. So it's like I can't imagine if one of them had cancer, I would probably feel so terrible about it that I could see that I could see why people might want to avoid it, and why it's good that we all have each other. So I have a few people who are willing to join. So I guess one of them is Boyd, who I've been hoping to meet live. We've been connected on here on Instagram for a while now. I don't know if Boyd, I can just press accept, and if he accepts, he
Yeah,
accepts. Let's try it. Let's see, where did it go? He accept. Let's see if he comes in the chat and he could share one of his thoughts.
I
I'm
know.
doing this right, but
Too.
Boyd, if you're still accept, I don't know if he's still there. If not, I'll try another person. But this is all new for us, but we're enjoying it. Let's see. Maybe I can invite him that way, or I could. 1 second. Okay, got that going. But yeah, I mean, it's just these different experiences that people have, and we are grateful to be here as cancer survivors, as cancer patients, still going through it, still hopeful. So just because sometimes it hurts us to hear certain things doesn't mean that we're not grateful. You could be both. You could be grateful that you've lived another day and that you're feeling good that day, but you could also be down about your situation and what you've gone through before. So let's see. Darlene, is that one of your followers? I
Darlene?
think I see. Trying to accept her. Pressing accept. I don't know. Maybe this feature's not something I'm still learning. Yeah, let's see. Oh, this is it working? Yay, great. Now I know that feature is working. Welcome.
Hello. It's my mama.
Hi, Darlene. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with cancer?
I'm sorry. Let me turn this up a little bit. Say that one more time.
Can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your experience with cancer?
I don't really want to talk about it if that's okay. My husband died of it. My daughter's got it. I just came to listen, really. I don't want to.
Okay, well,
Okay, I thought maybe you wanted to share a story, anything about the topic, about the finding the right words to say to someone. Would you want to?
No, I'm just going to listen. That's all I want to do is listen, if that's okay.
Okay. Okay,
That's
I
okay.
apologize for that. Okay. I'm going to
I
remove.
know that's what join meant.
Yeah, so just to be clear, there's a part, we're learning this too, where you can join in the video and talk to us. So I'm kind of like accepting some people, but I'm, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to accept, of course. Let's see what honey. Boyd. Okay,
Even better.
great. How
Hey
you doing,
guys,
Boyd?
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Boyd.
So if you could share your a little bit about your story first, and then if you want to contribute about the actual matter at hand.
Two-time survivor of acute myeloid leukemia, which is a horrible form of blood cancer, and I was told by the doctors I wouldn't live the year, and had a life-saving stem cell transplant from an American naval serviceman named Nathan, and it's a very emotional video that I'll send to you later, my new friend, because you'll cry, I promise you. I met him at Disney, so it was so special. Anyways, two things. One is resilience, but more importantly, I just want to go back to what you were talking about. I remember when I was having my stem cell transplant and I had lost all my hair, and I went to the school to see my son, and so he was 6 years old at the time. I've got a mask on, I've got no hair, I look horrible, and some kid starts laughing at me, or even adults saying, "Well, you're a guy. Who cares that you lost your hair?" And I'm like, it really bothered me. It really upset me a lot. But Taylor Swift, God bless her. It's true. Shake it off. Just just get on with it. Because part of the reason why I've run the Boston Marathon 4 times is because some guy said I'd never go. So I've beat him there twice. And exactly. The guy that said I would never go, I beat him. I couldn't believe it. And um, it's a choice. It's a choice to be strong and to be resilient. And um, the friend that I tagged today on Instagram, I'm not going to spoil it for him because I won't mention who he is. So he's had cancer twice. He's dealing with it a third time, and he's waiting on a scan result. Do you know what he's doing? Instead of sitting around in Vancouver, Canada, waiting for the doctor, he's flying to Florida to meet up with a bunch of guys from Man Up to Cancer, and he's surprising most of them. Right.
Oh, wow.
That is living life. I know it had nothing to do with the subject, but I was running today, and I dedicated the run to him. His name sounds like John, starts with a D. And I said, I was thinking of you. He goes, Boyd. He goes, I'm flying to Florida to surprise the guys. I'm like, you got to be kidding! You got to be kidding! And I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with the subject matter, but like every day can be a gift and a surprise, and you know, um, I've been on a medical leave the entire time I was ever cleared to go back to work, and people would be like, well, glad you're feeling better. I would just say cracked but not broken, right? So if that makes sense.
I like that one.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
cracked but not broken. I mean, it's not. It's a new normal. This is not going to be normal again. You know.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
good point that you just made about it's not going to be
It's a
normal
new
again.
normal. It's a new normal. It's just new.
New normal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just different.
and
And if people
mhm,
if people can't be bothered, get lost.
yeah, and maybe part of the
I
maybe
have a
of
permanent
the
person's disabled parking pass. This is real. This is not fake. This is not staged. And I also run marathons. You think everybody was down with that?
Yeah. I feel like you're not mentioning enough the fact that
75
you've been running every day
days,
for
yeah.
400 and something days now. Maybe you should say
Well,
that. So very, very
yeah.
inspirational. I love watching that.
You know what was even cooler? We went back to Florida. We went to Disney, around the marathon again for like the third time, and oh, did you see about me guiding the veteran with disabilities, Leah? Did you see that? Oh, that was so wild. So, anyways, this
Oh,
person inspired me last year to sign up for the Disney Dopey Challenge, where you run a 5, 10, half, and a full over 4 days. And I hadn't met her, and then she saw the video of me at Disney, and she's crying and all this stuff. And so Disney, they do this where sometimes they'll just cut a race in half, no notice, night before. It's gonna rain. It's gonna whatever. So the half marathon's now 7 miles. Half marathon's 13 miles, right? So it's like, so I'm like, what do I do? I didn't want to get on the negative train because everybody was really ticked off, right? So I was praying. I'm like, okay, what can I do? And so, anyways, I met her name's Leah, and her partner, her fiance's name is Danny. Before the half marathon, the 7 miles, I said, we're doing this together. And she was like, oh my gosh, she was so happy. We sang ourselves hoarse singing Disney songs.
wow.
I lost my
Oh, wow.
voice. We were singing Disney songs. And like, even like in my world, a lot of it has to do with is being medically disabled. I'll never go back to work. I have a brain injury. I have spinal cord trauma, and and then people get mad because you run marathons to give hope to other people, or like Carolyn said, you run 101 half marathons in just over a year to give hope to people, and then people have a problem with that, and people have
Mm-hmm.
a problem because of my disabilities, especially in the winter. I'll just run on my treadmill. I don't want to fall. I don't want to hurt myself. Actually, I was doing a Christmas run in late November because Canadian winters are horrible, and I tripped and I scratched up my knee, and I was like, oh my gosh. And my wife's like, how come you're running it? I said, I don't want to get hurt. And she's like, yeah, that sounds wise, but you kind of trip or whatever, and it's whatever. Anyways, all that to say, I remember just the I don't know what the right word is, embarrassment or whatever. It's, you know what it is? It's a really bad, this should make you laugh. This is a really bad, exaggerated going up to a woman and asking them when their babies due, and they're not pregnant. Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
right. Like, but no, I
Yeah.
got cancer. Actually, and I did it wrong once. I went up to somebody that I saw who had a bald head, and I thought they had cancer because I went up to tell them I had cancer. Oh, they didn't have cancer. They
Oh.
just had alopecia. They had lost their hair. I'm like,
Well, this is important because I was going to say, even us, I mean, we're holding this talk. Of course, we've said things ourselves that we might want to take back. But it's just about, I think it's more about, and maybe we should go there, the things that are said and the people know what they're saying. And when you just said something about, you're running. Well, maybe you don't feel like
no,
running.
there
Well, you're
are
running every
days
day.
that I don't
Forgot.
feel like doing
You're,
it, but then
but whatever. There's certain times, and when I'm good now, but when I was first in remission, sometimes I was up for going out. Sometimes I wasn't. If I didn't want to host an event,
yeah. It's
I
a
was judged
new
for it. If
normal.
things weren't back to
I went
normal. that
from
summer, and it's
post-transplant
like,
fatigue,
well,
which is a real thing, post-stem cell transplant fatigue, into running, and so now I live with runner's fatigue. So basically, I've been tired for 13 years. I just, but it's true. It's a new normal. Like,
yeah.
and the most painful thing is when family doesn't get it. I mean, our kids were 6 2 and the newborn, and so we had to just adjust and pivot, and here we are years later, and you know, at one point maybe we could only have one kid in sports programs, just because of financial
Yeah.
costs or even just ability to do things, and so you make sacrifices, but you try to, you hear stories of people that were in the concentration camps starving to death and a mom giving food to their kid because she wanted the kid to think that she was full. And so really we're master of our own domain, and we're master of our own destiny. And when you do mess up, just own it. And if people don't want to forgive you, or if people are constantly insensitive, they don't have to be on the team. Right? I always said this, just because they share the same jersey, which is the same last name, they're not necessarily on your team, right? Whether it's a family member or whatever, because they have to. I mean, personal advocacy isn't about being rude or demanding, but it's just about knowing what you're doing. You're honestly giving the best of what you can do at this time, and
Mhm.
I don't know. It's been 12, 13 years. We work through it. My wife and I are doing so much better now. But like, imagine, I don't know if you guys have seen the stand-up comedian Jim Gaffigan. He goes, having a baby is like, imagine you're drowning and somebody hands you a baby. So have 3 kids in 6 years and then get cancer 3 months later. It was devastating. But we got through it. There were family members that were amazing, and then others that weren't. So
Yeah.
there's just not enough time to get caught up in everything. Did you see when I walked away from that car crash last April?
I don't think,
Just, I didn't really
maybe,
share it
I don't
because I
know.
didn't want people's feedback. I didn't want their opinion.
Well, that's
I just
another topic,
didn't
but
want their feedback,
for another,
so
yeah, I was very private, like during my cancer. When I was going through it,
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
announce it officially anywhere until I got a clean scan mid scan. I didn't want to talk about it because I just didn't want to answer the question. I wasn't ready. That's basically it.
Right.
I was not ready until later. And now obviously years have passed, and now I'm finally like, I want to open up, I want to help people, I want to do this,
Yeah, yeah.
but everyone is
Well,
different. Some people
because
want to talk
because
about
of
it
my
by
diagnosis
step.
and being told I need a transplant and you need to share this, it was very public, and my wife was a private person, and so you know we to eventually find a donor was awesome. I have a very, very public story, right? Like, Carolyn, you've seen the video. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, oh, it's
And that being said,
amazing.
I
Either.
really like my privacy a lot too. Like, it can be
Right.
both at the same time.
Could be
I
both.
chose to come on here. I wanted to be on here. But if I was watching my
Yeah.
iPhone, and actually I forgot to watch, do you watch any of the Chicago shows, like Chicago Fire, Chicago Police? No? I'm I miss the writer's
You should do.
strike. I didn't care about any of the labor issues. It was impacting my shows.
Alicia, say, I saw you shaking your head about share. How do you feel about that? About like sharing your journey? Obviously, you're not
I
on here,
when
but
I first got diagnosed, I was willing to be open about it with everyone, really. And it was so long ago that I didn't have internet, or MySpace wasn't a thing. Like, there was no GoFundMe or that kind of thing, really. I mean, you had chat rooms and things like that, but so I didn't have these tools that I have now. But like all of my friends and family, like I told, because in my mind I'm like, I might die. Like, I might not make it
Right, right,
through
right, right.
this, and I want everyone to know. And I was pretty much an open book right away. And but through that, I realized a lot of people, like you said, just aren't, they can't, it's like overwhelming for them, I guess, is maybe the right word. Like they're shocked, they're hurt by it.
Or they're selfish and they're more concerned how it impacts them than you.
Yeah, I've experienced that where it was,
It's true. It's horrible.
it's really hard for us on the, as the patient,
Right.
to look at someone that's there to be supportive, taking it harder than we are, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It, for me, it added extra stress on an already stressful situation. You know?
I know you can't make this stuff up. Like
Yeah.
another thing too. So my dad passed away 2 years ago, and it's hard because I had shared it on social media, and then one of his friends saw it, and he was Uncle Ralph. He wasn't an actual uncle, but you get it, right? And so I called him. I said, I'm so sorry that you found out about this on Facebook. We were trying to let people know privately, right? And it's kind of like that, if that makes sense. You want people to know, but at the same time too, like, you want to get in the Christmas newsletter that you know what I mean? Like, somebody got sick or whatever. So it's hard. It's hard to do both and do both at the same time. There's both sides to it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with our society and the way relationships are in society in general. Like it's not, because I've lived all over the country since my first cancer, and it, it's still the same. You know, like I still look at people when they say things. It's like, you know, I don't think you understand. I'm in my mind, but I know that they mean well, um, but they don't know what to say, so they react with words instead of responding in a
Right.
genuine manner with words. And it's
And it's not like you want them to get it, so they then figure it out.
right. You know, like
But you try this, yeah, you try that, and
I had an experience not too long ago with a woman that I really admire and care about, and I had told her for the first time, it's not something that I just go around talking about, you
sure.
know, that my cancer has no cure. Medically, scientifically, it has no cure. It's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
She, she's a woman of faith. I'm a woman of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And bless her heart, she meant well. But she looked at me and said, "Oh no, honey, you speak life over that." And I know what she meant. Like she said it and the timing. It was like
Mm-hmm.
mine. I'm like, this is not the time you should have said that to me. And then another part of me was like, well, why do you think I'm still here? Like, what do you think I do every day? Like, I wake up every day thankful and hopeful that I will have more days and, you know, going through it with positivity and the best that I can. And, you know, it's like, why would you say that?
I had
Like,
people I had people show up at the hospital when we asked them, please don't come, because they were determined God wanted them to pray for me.
like if everybody's different, you know, and like,
Yeah, yeah. There's two sides to it. Yes, have faith,
right,
but
I mean, our
at the
bodies,
same time too, like, yeah,
and like we could all have, three of us have radiation, and all three of us be absolutely have different side effects from it
hmm,
and be affected differently. And it's the same way with what we're comfortable with. Like some people are comfortable with being open about everything right away. Some people are like, no, I want to keep this private until I know more or until I know I'm okay. You know, I don't want people to worry. So I think that's another thing that people should keep in mind is we are all so unique, and each approach to each new person, you know, that they come across in their life that is cancer or a chronic illness, they should approach uniquely instead of just this blanket, oh, well, I'm so glad you're better now. Or, oh, it's just hair. Or, oh, the,
Why aren't you sharing more?
yeah.
Why are you sharing more posts? Like,
I think when people say I'm so glad you're better, they're kind of telling you you're better.
they
I'm
they they
deciding
mean
you're
well.
better.
They
You're not
mean well.
really okay. I
That's
know, and that's why
yeah.
Derek
I bought
love.
a salt shaker and I put Grace in it, and so now everything's seasoned with Grace. Do you get what I'm saying? You have to give Grace because otherwise it just drives you mental.
Yeah.
I have a member that wants to join,
Okay,
so I'm gonna
you gonna
have
kick
her
me
join
off, or do
too.
I get to sit? Let's see if
I
we
don't
go
know
to
what
four
happens
screens.
Yeah.
in that
I don't
case. So let's
know. Let's
do I have
turn
to
it into a party. Let's see.
report
Oh, here we go.
everyone away from me
Hey!
after seeing?
Hey!
Hello.
So, I introduced Carolyn to Amanda, and
Yes.
she has sponsored your fundraiser. And I'm going to shut up and let you explain who you are and what you're doing this spring.
I don't know why I'm not seeing her, but I'm not gonna like mess up my. I'm not gonna mess this up. But for some reason, I'm not seeing her. I'm seeing a
She's
fourth of
there.
like
She's
frozen screen
there.
from before. But hi, I'm sorry. Maybe to like maybe I
I'll
could
take a screenshot.
do
I got
something.
it. I
Okay.
got it.
Well, anyway,
Hey,
go back
hey,
here. So
kid. Oh, shut up. Go ahead.
Okay.
She's my
tell
hero.
us
Oh,
She's
your
my hero. She's
experience
amazing.
with this
Tell your
topic.
story too.
all right. So I'm a two-time AML leukemia survivor. I was diagnosed May 2017. Went in for induction chemo and then 4 consolidation therapies. Relapsed about 6.5 months later. Went back in for a second induction chemotherapy. Found out I have TP53, but not just in my cancer cells, in my whole body. My family, we found it in my grandmother, my mother, me. They think my sister, possibly my aunt, but she had passed away from cancer. And then several other family members were diagnosed with Lee-Fraumeni syndrome. So we're one of the first, well, one of 4 families that have it generational in the United States. And then I am one of one. I have a very rare, never seen before genetic mutation. It is on top of my codon 72, on top of the TP53. So I'm working with a scientific oncologist about that to figure out what it is, why I have it, if it, it's cancer causing, which we figured it's cancer causing, but it's never seen before. So it's very, very rare, and I love advocating for that. But when I was diagnosed with cancer, I have a very large extended family. So I made a Facebook page, and called it my journey, and I shared it with my family and friends so that I didn't have to call hundreds of people every single day and let them know what was going on. It turned into like I shaved my head. My mom shaved my head live, a Facebook Live. Everyone watched it. My family watched it. It's still on there. Like people can share it. I had an emergency appendectomy 4 days into chemotherapy. The hospital has never done surgery on an ongoing chemotherapy patient before, so that was a first. Had the emergency appendectomy, almost died. Um, and I shared everything on my Facebook page. For me, my son was 3.5 when I was diagnosed with cancer. So it was just it was a whirlwind of so many different emotions. And I was so upset and I was so sad and I was really depressed. But what helped me was sharing my journey. So I started the Facebook page, I shared it with family and friends. And then once the doctors and nurses found out what I was doing, it was public. So they were allowed to share it with other people who were in the hospital. And they're like, hey, I know this cancer patient. I can't give you information, but she has a Facebook page because it's not HIPAA violation if they're sharing a Facebook page. So I was able to find people who were in the hospital, same time as I was, same diagnosis, who was going through what I was going through. We we're able to share and communicate. So that's how I really started kind of advocating, just advocating for myself, basically. And then it kind of grew where people were like sharing things, or it's just hair. But I felt like I didn't want cancer taking anything from me. I wanted to own it. So I shaved my hair and I shared it with the world. It's not scary. Don't worry about it. It's hair. It'll come back, whatever. But I'm owning it. Cancer's not taking it from me. I took it for myself. I wanted it gone. And I shared my inspirational posts. I did like an inspirational, motivational quote for the day because that's what helped me. But being honest and open and sharing what I was going through helped me so much. So then I started a website. It's called Cancer is an Asshole. My whole page, Cancer is an Asshole. And I just was writing blogs of what I felt was going on, what I hated about cancer, what I wanted to change about cancer, things that people go through, like why do cancer patients always make GoFundMe's, or why there's stigmas about certain things about cancer. Like I wanted to let people know the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is why we advocate. This is why I need to take this medication. This is why my car's gonna be taken away because I can't afford my car payment. This is what we go through, and I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna be raw, and I'm gonna be real. I mean, I have videos where I'm on the toilet and I'm like, this sucks. The hemorrhoids, the diarrhea, the throwing up. Like I was everything. I shared every single thing. And that's brought me to like where I am now. I'm working on getting my board certification so I could be a board certified patient advocate. I really want to work with like
Nice.
governments and hospitals just to really help cancer patients. Boyd has set up a GoFundMe so that I can meet my stem cell donor,
She's never met
which
her
I'm so happy
donor.
about.
She's advocated for years, and I'm like,
Yeah,
you've
I
never met
know.
your donor.
He doesn't have my donor. He lives in Germany. So my son's born December 24th. His daughter is actually born 2 years ago on December 18th. So we have children so close to one another. He got married 3 years ago. We text back and forth because the language barrier, like it changes from me to him. But I can't wait to meet him. Like, I just want to be able to hug the man who saved my life and just say thank you in
Yes.
person and let him really know, like, what it means to me. And not just me, like, my son. I'm here. Like, I could have died. I was given a 10% chance to live. The doctors didn't think I was going to live because of the genetic mutation and how bad the cancer came back the second time around. So to be able to just like thank somebody and be like, you saved my life. You were able to let me see my kid and go to football games and help with homework and have to clean the house and like all the little things that get frustrated about sometimes, but then when you're able to do that after being told you're gonna die, like it's just so different. Life is so different. And prior to cancer, I've had 7 brain surgeries. I have an inoperable cyst on my cerebellum that I've had several surgeries to kind of like shrink it down, but unfortunately it's inoperable because where it sits, and there's like more percentage if they go in there and try to take it out. It's on my cerebellum, so it's basically walking and talking, and if they nick something, it could be deadly. So I have right now a VA shunt that goes from my brain down through my jugular here and then into my heart, which I've had for several years. My 7th brain surgery was when I was 16 weeks pregnant with my son in 2013. So, yeah, so I've been through a lot. And my sister had brain cancer when she was 6 years old. She's like 27-year survivor. My aunt had Ewing sarcoma.
Wow.
My grandfather had lung cancer and esophageal cancer. My uncle's wife had breast cancer. Unfortunately, she passed. So I've been around cancer, and my mom is a clinical manager for Atlantic Hematology and Oncology here in New Jersey. So I've been around cancer, and I've seen it from other people's point of view. I've been the sister of someone. I've been the granddaughter of someone. I've been the niece of someone. And Now I'm able to advocate from being the cancer patient point of view. So I feel that everything I've learned, everything that I've been through in my life, everything I've seen, whether it's the financial, the physical, the mental, just everything, I'm able to advocate that. And I love being able to do so. And a lot of times, especially on LinkedIn, I'm posting things that may become controversial, but will open people's eyes. Just like how Johnson and Johnson is suing the American government because they feel like they're losing money for the American government to be having laws that Medicare and Medicaid can, you know, get the medication for a lower cost for their patients. I feel that it's completely ridiculous. They don't need to earn $2.5 billion a year on one cancer medication. I think that's completely ridiculous. Things that we need to change, that's what I advocate for. I always say there's no black and white in cancer. Cancer's not black and white. It's completely gray. Every single person is different. We all have different HLA factors. We all have different genetics. We're all different. We have different fingerprints. And there's not one cancer patient who has the same treatment, the same medication, the same need for platelets or blood or whatever it is. We're all different. So it's different to just say like, okay, this person needs this type of treatment. That's what they're going to do. This is how much they're going to pay. It's not like that. It's not like treating someone for a knee replacement or getting a nose job or, it's completely different and the care is specific to each person. And I think we need to share that. We need to bring attention to every patient is different. Mm-hmm. Every journey is different. And that's why cancer is so difficult to talk about and advocate for because it is so different. But if we have stories like this and Instagram lives and people can come in and share their stories, we can help each other. We can be the backbone for each other and we can get things done if we unite. And I love being able to share my story. I love being able to help other people. And I'm here for it 100%.
I love it.
Thank you. I think that everything you said is so awesome. And something you said about how you even say that hair will grow back. I think it's an excellent point to make because coming from somebody who went through it, it's different than someone who never went through it saying it. That's one of the main issues, I think, for someone who never lost their hair to say it. It just feels different coming from them than it does from you. From you, I would take it as, wow, she got through it. Like she firsthand did that. I think I could do it too. But the other thing I wanted to say was, just to get back to the topic, I know you had some. What is like one of the worst things?
Well, I posted that video, I think, on TikTok, and then I shared it on, yeah. So I was seeing like, really I'm a mom, of course whatever, and I did one as a cancer patient. Okay, I finished with my treatment and I'm feeling, or I'm in remission. Oh, okay, you're all better now. Like, let's get back. No, it's not like that now. What's it? I just like, do you really need a fundraiser? Are you really spending that much money? Do you really need help? It was those things like, oh, it's not that expensive. Like, stop crying about your medical bills, and then you get $1,000 bills, and you'd be like, no, yeah, I have insurance, but I'm still paying $4,500 for this medication out of my pocket. Like, it's insane. And I think that's probably one of my biggest things is that people don't get how much need there is financial wise.
Yeah,
I think that's probably one of my number one things. And even though you have insurance, it doesn't cover everything. I mean, it might for some people, and if it does, it's great. But there's so much financial toxicity associated with cancer. It is astounding.
I had someone ask me when I went through my last cancer in, I guess that would be, well, I can't, I'd have to count. I don't take time to remember. It was like almost 8 years ago. And I started a GoFundMe, and I had someone ask, and my GoFundMe was set for 5,500. And I had someone ask me why I need so much money.
Wow.
And I had to explain to them, yes, I have insurance, but I still have to pay for up to, my insurance only pays up to 80% of my bill. When you're looking at a bill that's $150,000,
Gee.
like, and that's just the start of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then
Yeah, what if
you have rent.
you work, right? What if you can't work and you need money
100%. So
because of
you have
that?
work, you have your rent, you have your car payment, you have food. Well, what about the good food that you're supposed to eat? Because the bad food is really bad for you. You can't even afford it. You can't afford your medication. What about doctors changing medication in the middle of a diagnosis or the middle of a month?
Or
The
what if they
insurance will
change it and the new one's not covered?
right, exactly.
That
And if
happened to
it
me
changes
in
in the middle of
Canada,
the
which is
month,
our
because
socialist healthcare system.
that
it is,
happened to me with the medicine. Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely
So like, here's the
insane.
bill. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
$7,000 a month for 30 pills. I'm just like, how, wait, what?
Insurance companies will put a cap on like how much they will pay for your bills. Sometimes like Medicare is about like they'll cover like 80%, but then you have 20%. But if your bill is $45,000, that 20%, that's still costing thousands of dollars.
Ah,
Sometimes insurance companies will pay only a small amount. It's mind boggling.
well, and it gets complicated too, because if you have, when you get your diagnosis, they come together as like, it's called like the tumor board. For me, it was the tumor board came together, and that's like 40 doctors sitting around the table looking at your specific case and deciding what is the best treatment route for you, and which is good. You want your care to be directed for you, but I remember getting a bill for that, and it was $64,000.
Why didn't they just pay for it?
Right? I never just
They're not broke.
well,
They're
I
not
bet
broke.
insurance
Oh, for crying out loud.
because and it did end up covering most of it, but I
Ugh.
was just we just sat around the table. I mean, I get it, we're paying for their expertise and everything, but why so much? You know,
Yeah.
just to start. That's just running
So
surgeries
bad.
and
It's
and
so
the
horrible.
yeah,
It's horrible.
yeah,
That's not. There's no reason for that.
no,
One of them
Yeah.
could have just said, here's a check.
And that's where a lot of like the mental health starts to decline. I see a lot more mental health issues with survivorship than actually going through your diagnosis. Because once
Yes,
you're diagnosed, you
yes.
start fight or flight. And you're here and you're like, okay, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm going to do. Here's my calendar. Here's my doctor's appointments. Here's my treatment. We're going to do this. And you're just kind of doing what you have to do to survive.
focus.
You get into remission, and then it's like medical bill, medical bill, medical bill, medical bill. How am I going to start paying this now? Then it's the new medication, and then it turns into the new normal, and it's like, oh my god, and everything changes.
Hey,
Everything.
can I just jump in
You
for a
just
sec?
want,
So my
oh, you
wife
feel,
switched her
yeah.
role at work, and we just found out that her coverage is gone. She felt horrible. I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. We'll just pay for it. Like that was today. That was today. She's like, I need to talk to you.
Wow.
I'm like, we'll just pay for it. We'll just pay for it. Don't worry about it. It wasn't $64,000, I'll tell you that much, but still, like you'd think
Yeah.
13 years later. I've been in remission for 12 years, and I still take medication for brain trauma and stomach ulcers. And yeah. Anyways, that was literally today. Anyways, Carolyn, you were going to say something and I interrupted you.
Um, well, I was gonna say I'm not sure if this ends after an hour, but I think we probably want to keep it close to that anyway. But something I was thinking about while Amanda was speaking is I know this could be like old news, but COVID. I was a survivor at that point, but I was only a few years out, and I feel like that was very, very difficult for me in many ways. That could be its own whole discussion, but I do feel like I was very judged. Because I was like, you're fine now. But then all of a sudden, this new thing
Right,
came. Nobody knew what was going on. My oncologist said, keep yourself safe. We
right.
don't know how this could affect you. Because, you know, afterwards, you could have I personally don't have a problem with my immune system. Some things have been on the fence before when I've gotten it tested, but I'm fine for the most part. But it's like, I don't know at first, it was like, we have no clue. And so many people around me did not get that. All I wanted to do was protect myself, my family, because if they got sick, then I'm sick. And I feel like I lost friends over it, which is absurd that people couldn't understand. But it really just ties right into this whole thing. Why don't you want to hang out with us? Well, why are you? What do you have a problem with? That kind of stuff. And it's like, no, I'm just afraid for my life. And until I know what's going on, after what I went
I got
through, I'm not
to
going to
jump
risk
in. My
anything right now.
donor and his wife had a baby, so this baby's a few months old. Okay, his his,
Yeah.
his sister went to the hospital to see the dad that was sick who had COVID, and, and the donor's wife said, "Can you please not do this to not get the baby sick?" And the sister went anyways.
Right.
So that's not COVID, but it's COVID, but it's just ignorant idiocy.
Like, and
Yeah.
And
I experienced
and
what
sorry, go
Ca-
ahead, go ahead, you're up.
Caroline, I experienced that too because I had to withdraw. It's like this is new. I don't know
Sure.
what this can do, and I don't have like a compromised immune system per se. But with my cancer, it's really it's weird because I remember when I asked my doctor, okay, after the surgery and everything was done, this is my first cancer. Where do I stand? Am I in remission? Am I cured? And that was when I found out, no, there is no cure, and you are in remission. And I was a teacher before I got diagnosed with my first cancer, and I love my job. I love kids. That's like, it's just, I love it. And my doctor looked at me, he said, I am counting on your immune system to keep your cancer at bay. He said, so you need to understand that every time you get sick with a cold, a flu, anything, your immune system has to take its attention off keeping your cancer in remission and focus on whatever's making you
Mm-hmm.
sick. So every time you get sick, it gives your cancer a chance to come back.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
now that knowledge, the pandemic hits, and I'm like, mask, and people like I stopped going
Yeah.
socializing, and nobody seemed. So many people just did not understand. Even when I would explain, it whoop,
Well, they don't want to listen.
Yeah, and it was
They don't want to
Yeah.
listen. They just want to get their point across.
Yeah,
so
and for like someone who's had a stem cell transplant, so like I have really bad graft versus host disease, and that's when the donor immune system will attack my immune system because it sees it as a foreign entity.
Mm-hmm.
right.
So like when I get the flu or a cold, my immune system will attack that, but then start attacking my body because it needs to realize, all right, the cold is over with, so relax. And that's usually when I have a flare up. Sometimes it's my mouth, my skin, my bones, and my joints. I have it in my gut as well. So, like, I ended up getting COVID. I had to go to the hospital for that. but it's still very, very scary. Like even like when my son is sick, I will wear a mask. Even now, in 5 years post, I will wear a mask in the house. People are
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, even though I'm technically no evidence of disease, my cancer can come back. My immune system can kill me because it's somebody else's immune system. So I have to be careful. And
Yeah.
like, it's like you're constantly reminding people, like, I might be in remission, but it, like, you don't go back to normal. And then there's this whole mental aspect of it of like, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. Oh my God, more bruising. And I got to need blood draws. Should I call my oncologist? Should I let them know? What medication should I could take? What should I not take? Like, and then you go down this whole spiral all over again.
And the masks, people,
Yep.
what are you wearing a
Yeah.
mask for? People
Yeah.
don't like I wear masks, but they don't know that, however many years before that, people had to wear masks around me to make sure they, masks do work. I mean, they were wearing them in the hospital. There's a reason why doctors wear masks during surgery. So yeah, maybe I took it a little far sometimes, and in the end, I did get COVID also, and I was okay. But protecting yourself when you need to, I think is fine. I don't think anybody should judge anybody for that.
I had a lot of
Yeah.
When you don't know,
Exactly.
you don't want to take chances.
Yeah.
We fought we've had to fight so hard to still be here. And yeah, we chose that fight. We didn't we
Well,
chose
what's the other option to die? Like,
right,
shut up.
exactly. What's the other option? Like, did we have another choice? What, just give and let ourselves die? It's like no, so I chose to fight, but what other choice did I have? You know.
That's it ties into like the "you're so brave" comment again. I could see how maybe if you were in someone else's shoes, they feel like I wouldn't be able to do that, but if they did have to,
Well,
they would, like we
Yeah,
I
it's
never.
like a
we do,
fight
because
or flight.
there's no other choice.
Do what you have to do.
You're right. I would have never thought that I would have been okay with amputating pretty much my breasts. But when I got that diagnosis, I was like, it's your turn, take them both. I was like, if they're going to tell me, I don't want them. I just
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
I struggle with guys in the testicular cancer community. Just saying, I have tremendous empathy for them
Yeah.
because,
Well,
yeah.
I get it. That's why I came up with this because cancer is an asshole. It's just my answer to everything.
Are Carolyn? You guys are both in New Jersey, aren't you?
Cancer is an asshole.
I'm in New York, but she's not far
Oh,
from me.
you're in
I'm in
Staten
Staten
Island.
Island, New
Yeah,
York, which is
you
pretty
guys need
close
to
to
figure
Jersey.
this out,
My
man. Like
husband was from
both of
Massachusetts.
you, you just New Yorker-ish. Like you got to get together. You got to get together.
Yes, that would be fun.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it
good.
didn't turn off
Good.
automatically at 6, but does anybody have any final thoughts? Though I think at this point we'll probably wrap this up. Anybody else wanted to say anything, even on camera? You can let me know in the comments, or
I'm
just hit
gonna
that button at
take
the
myself
bottom.
off. But
Or
first of all, it's so wonderful to finally converse with you. She made me dance last year, and
yeah,
so I didn't dance this year.
my video. Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
know
my video
that was
posting.
me
Yeah,
being out of my
that's how a
comfort
lot
zone.
of us.
Anyways, no, it's wonderful to meet you. You do wonderful advocacy, and it's so nice to meet everybody. And I'll sign off. But wonderful job tonight, and let's do this
It's
again.
great to talk to you guys,
Yeah,
meet
thank you for
you.
your.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Oh, there you are. I don't know. I still have a frozen camera from like the first person that was there. I hope it doesn't stay this way on the recording. Who knows? But
Yay.
now I can see glitch. I knew there was some glitch or another, but yeah, thank you for everybody in the chat that has been encouraging us. But I guess just some final thoughts is when you hear these things like "you're so brave" or "your hair will grow back." I mean, I've even had a good friend say to me, "Well, what's the worst that will happen? You'll just have to go through it again." And it's like, because I got through it. I mean, you don't know. And Aliesha, you're still going through it. To hear things, it's better. And it's hard because what are we going to do? We have to tell our friends. We have to hope our other friends are listening. But it's better to just say, how are you? And talk normally about normal things than to try to make the person feel better. And I think it applies to a lot of things in life, not just cancer. I don't know if anybody else wants to
Yeah,
say
I do.
another
no, I
final thought
completely
about it.
agree with you, 100%. Just like being normal, talk about normal things. A lot of times people don't know what to do though. I wrote a blog post. I'll share it with you after this. Like I always tell people, ask, like, do their laundry or hire a house cleaning service or bring in their mail or walk their dog or go food shopping for them or drop off flowers for them or take their kids for a day or pay one of their bills. There's so many things you can do besides saying, "Oh, stay strong." Like no shit. Like obviously,
Right.
you know, like there's so many things that you can do and like be encouraging. But it's okay to tell cancer patients that this sucks because guess what? We know. We agree with you. This sucks.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? How can I be there for you? What do you want me to do? Ask them. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to ask. Just ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I won't say this person's name, but there is a lady, I won't even say where she lives, for her privacy. I respect her very, very much. She had diabetes uh, and she ended up losing both her hands and feet. And it was fault of the doctor. So she ended up suing the doctor and won. But, but one of the things that I love about this person, she just wants to be treated like a normal person. And I remember thinking the first time I met her, like, that is all I want. And I think that's all any of us with, you know, chronic illness or something that's visibly, you can't hide it, you know. We just want to be treated like normal, you know. It's like just have a normal conversation. Yeah, I may look different. Half my face doesn't work right, you know. I have scars, but what's wrong with just a normal conversation like normal people, you know? And yeah, we're going through different things, but that doesn't mean we don't miss norm, like that normality of
Yeah.
conversation and just interaction, you know.
Right.
I know I miss it a lot, and so I'm quite the talker after having to learn to talk all over again. You know, it's now I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
Good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now I feel like I have to share one more story. Maybe when I first we didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm going to get diagnosed. On Staten Island, I had to go into the hospital and wait in this cancer center. That's where they ultimately told me that I had cancer. And in the waiting room, there were all these girls with like the scarves on their head. It was a breast cancer section or whatever. And I'm waiting and I'm just seeing them and I'm just naturally feeling bad for them. And I was thinking, and I kind of knew it was going to be cancer. Like, I don't want to be pitied. And I come back to that story all the time. I kept thinking, like, I'm going to be the one that's pitied. And people are going to feel bad for me now. Like, and I felt guilty that I felt bad for them because I'm like, they're just trying to live their life and be normal, even though they have this illness. But I have the nerve because they lost their hair that I feel bad for them. And now some people are going to feel that way about me. And I don't want them to. It was just like a whole thing that I went through.
It's difficult. It's mentally, it's frustrating, and it's like you don't know what your life is going to look like, and it's kind of like the fear of the unknown. You know, what's going to happen to me? Like, what do I do? How am I going to? It's everything all wrapped into one. It's very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
And when you need care, too, that's another. For me, I needed care. Like I couldn't care for myself. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't wipe my bottom when I went to the bathroom. I couldn't pick up my son who was 2 years old. You know, it was hard. I took it well, but it was like there was so much extra. You know, like we have to juggle the emotions of that, and that's the unseen battle. that we face every day, and like you said, it's after we come out of the flight or flight mode, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, mm, and it's like, okay, now here comes this emotional roller coaster juggling act type thing. We do the best we can, but we have our good days and bad days where we might feel sorry for ourselves. And one thing I would love to add before we do go, and I don't want to forget to add this because this impacted me in a positive way, very, very much. I did have a like a not like a mental breakdown, but I got to a point during my first cancer where I was really just like, why am I still here? Kind of, I just was having a couple days where I was just like, I don't see the point of why I just did all what I did. And so I knew that that's not the way I think. I love life. I love life. And I knew right away. And the nurse came in. I was always happy, joking about everything, making a joke out of things, to make everyone the light of it. And it was just fun for me that way. And the nurse comes in my room and I'm bawling. I'm just bawling. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, I am not okay. I need someone to talk to now." He's like, "Okay." So he goes and he gets a psychiatrist from the hospital. And I was at Barnes and Jewish Hospital in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri at the time. And so it's like a university hospital. And they had a psychiatrist that only worked with cancer patients coming to my room. And I'm crying. I'm all emotional. I don't even know what I'm feeling. It's not normal for me, right? And so he sits on the edge of my bed, and he asks me, how are you feeling? I tell him everything that's going through my mind and how I'm really feeling. And he looked at me. And he said, "Aliesha, everything you are feeling is absolutely normal." He said, "If you weren't feeling these things, then I'd be worried." And I just thought, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't, I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, am I like, what's happening here? And it's like, okay, no, what you're feeling is absolutely normal. And it was so nice to be validated, because everybody else was like, oh,
Yeah.
calm down. And it's, I
Everyone's like, happy,
yeah.
happy. It's like, I'm not right
Yeah.
now.
I'm so sorry
Yeah.
to cut you guys off.
Just
I have
not.
to leave. We have to go bring my son to practice. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you for joining,
totally. And
for
I would
totally your
totally love to
thoughts.
do this all over again. This was great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
totally.
can talk
Totally.
forever, right?
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Karen.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Aliesha. I think we definitely should do this again.
That was
so great
great.
hearing from everybody.
I absolutely enjoyed
other.
having multiple people on. That was great. And I loved everything everyone talked about and brought up. And it was, yeah, everyone seemed to like, yeah, we could all talk about this for days. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and what you said about social media, like even though there was social media when I was going through it, like in 2015, I wasn't on Instagram really. I had my own Facebook friends, and like I said, I didn't necessarily want to tell like the people that I was seeing on a day, my coworkers or my friends or whatever. But this would have helped a lot. So if it could help others, then I definitely want to keep going, and it's helping me now, even all these years later. It just feels great to talk to other people who went
Same,
through it.
because I've never gotten to do that. And so it's really, it's like weight is coming off that I've probably been carrying for
Exactly.
God knows how long. Just because it's like, well, most people don't want to hear it. And so yeah.
No.
This has been absolutely a pleasure.
Yeah. Now we'll think about the next topic. Even though we covered a bunch of topics, I think tonight. We'll think about
that sounds
we'll
good.
talk.
Yeah. And I'm willing to collaborate anytime. anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you
Thanks,
to everybody in the chat,
everyone.
and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.